My engagement with the Muslim community really began in earnest when I was here in 2006 as the Assistant Special Agent in charge in part of the Counterterrorism Division here in Washington Field. And we had a very robust inter-community discussion roundtable and a number of panels that we had put in place that we participated in, not always those that we started, but others, where we engaged the Muslim community. In the years after 9/11, the important aspect of engagement allowed us to gain perspective of what the local community was about and what their concerns were, and also allowed us to build a measure of trust between the law enforcement community and the Muslim community in particular. And we had a number of instances where we had cases that had developed where we really needed insight or some advice as to how to approach the community at large in various parts of the country. Minneapolis is a good example. When we realized that we had young American Muslims that were traveling overseas to become engaged in the fight with Al-Shabaab, in league with them, we needed someone to go to ask us how should we best approach the community. Now, Minneapolis had a very, very robust contact or inter-community working group, and we're very aware of the Muslim community in Minneapolis. But from a headquarters perspective, we weren't quite that close to the event. So at that time, I went and made contact with Imam Majid, brought him into FBI headquarters, and asked him questions about what his advice would be as to how we would approach the Muslim community, specifically at that time in Minneapolis, but other parts of the country as well that they had the same problem. And his insights allowed us to communicate then with the leadership of those offices, found out whether we were in line with or running against the strategy that had been put in play in those field offices, and I think allowed us as an organization to respond more effectively overall to what turned out to be a fairly tragic and traumatic event for not just the government but more specifically the community. From a hate crime perspective, I think that those individuals who are engaged in that type of activity have not sat back and taken into consideration another person's beliefs, background, or views of certain issues, and are very short-sighted in their final judgments. The troubling voice to us has been the Anwar al-Awlaki and some of the others that surround him. And with his departure, I think that there's an opportunity, and the opportunity is for the American Muslims, but Muslims worldwide, to actually try to fill that void with a moderate message, one that rings more true to Islam. If I had advice to give the Muslim American community, it's to remember that you yourself are a very important part of the American process. And as a taxpayer, you have just as much access and right to question or right to engage with the law enforcement community specifically, whether it's at the local, state, or even at the federal level, than anyone.